we have yet another one of those transformational weeks full of planetary transits. In this week's astrology, Jupiter is entering retrograde, allowing us to rethink how we interact with our surroundings. Pluto's exiting its retrograde motion for the last time in Capricorn, allowing us to review what's been going on over these last 16 years regarding Pluto and Capricorn themes. There's an uncommon alignment between Jupiter and Chiron, which might encourage us to explore a better path for ourselves. Two yod patterns will form involving Mercury and Venus, which may put some extra pressure on us regarding our interactions and our relationships. And Mercury will make the most transits over these next 7 days, emphasizing why we must work on our communication skills and our thinking patterns. Because this is such a potent and dynamic week, the vibes on the graph are reflective of that. Mental vibes will be present until the 10th, so it may be a time where we're finding ourselves in deep thought, finding ourselves being more analytical than typical, and just really knowledge hungry. But by the next day on the 11th, there's a smidge of emotional sensitivity, plus imagination and confusion, and psychic vibes, all lasting until the 12th. So we have about a weird 24 hours of needing to take a step back and sorting out our emotions to ensure that we're not misinterpreting conversations and the way we perceive things. Then by the 11th to the 13th, romantic tones is going to intersect good luck, ambition, mental tenors, and social energy. With the energy we have going on Friday through Saturday, we'll feel like getting things done, we'll feel motivated, which has a lot to do with a lot of Mars activity that's going on over the weekend and some very uncomfortable aspects, but it will encourage us to fix things that cause us discomfort. Plus, it's a weekend to indulge in romance and also seek other adventurous happenings. So yeah, we're in for another interesting week. Let's look at these next bunch of days and see what we can expect. Don't forget to like and subscribe because it helps this channel grow. Also, if you're looking for a natal chart reading or intuitive coaching, the links will be in the description box below. And if you'd like to support the work of this channel, you could do so by buying me a fresh cup of coffee. The link will be in the description box below as well. Tuesday offers us a passionate, flirtatious, and fun alignment with Venus and Mars. And this happens to be a pre-shadow Mars alignment since Mars is now in its pre-shadow phase. Mars is going retrograde December 6th. And so a majority of the alignments that we're seeing connecting to Mars are going to repeat themselves over these next bunch of months. And by next bunch of months, until April of 2025. So the themes of this alignment is going to come up 2 more times after this, once during the regressive cycle and another time in the post-shadow. And so it's good to jot these things down, especially if you're feeling as though you're affected by this, because this has a lot to do with our relationships and finances. So of course, with Mars and Venus, we're going to have more of an emphasis on our love lives, but it can also be our close relationships as well that's going through a transitionary period. And this one tends to bring some ease to it. So if things have been turbulent, this could be a time of reconciliation. This could be a time of meeting others halfway, mending fences. It could be a period to work on our social life and take action in that area. Romantically, this could be a time of working on your love life situations, which could be about improving an existing relationship, or if you're single, putting yourself out there and getting back in the driver's seat of your love life, or just taking a step back for the moment to make sure you're attracting the right types of people and making better choices. And it could be a time to take action when it comes down to your finances, when it comes down to your career, and considering ways to improve that for yourself. We'll see this alignment again on January 25th while Mars is in its regressive motion, and then during the post-shadow on April 6th of 2025. So what I was saying about Mercury making the most transits over these next 7 days is kind of an understatement, because Mercury is going to be ultra active this week. Mercury is not impeded, it's moving very fast, and while it's moving fast, it's making a total of 6 connections to the other planets with a yod thrown in for good measure. Of course, that yod is included into that mix, but we're going to go from optimistic thinking with this Mercury stuff to something of a caustic vibe, because the majority of the alignments that we're going to be having after the 8th are going to feel a little bit prickly. But on the 8th, Mercury's connecting with Jupiter in a very harmonious way. And so an alignment like this can really help us get in touch with higher perspectives. It can put a positive tone into the atmosphere. Regardless if we have some of those harder alignments around the corner, this can put us in a positive mood. It can put us in a more optimistic mood. So it could be a day where we're having enjoyable conversations. It could be a day where we're having thought-provoking conversations with people. Or if we're not really feeling so so social, we may just indulge in knowledge on that day. So this could be reading about our favorite topics or watching videos about them, and other ways to interact with educational things. And on that same day, Mercury is going to align with Chiron, and there might be some mitigation with this. This happens to be a complex alignment, so we might vacillate a little bit on that day, from optimistic to overthinking to overanalyzing, and maybe experiencing moments where there's a sense of dread. So it might be a time where we feel like our minds are kind of in a loop, and this may lead us to trying to find ways to heal our mindset and to really understand why we experience these gloomy patches. Then by the 11th, we've got our yod forming. Mercury is going to form a yod with Uranus and Neptune. Uranus and Neptune happen to be in a sextile right now, and Mercury happens to be at that apex point. And so this can put some extra emphasis or pressure on where we lack insight into mercurial things that we really need to work on. This one in particular, because of the combination of Uranus and Neptune combined with Mercury and Libra, could emphasize gaining balance in the way we communicate and think. This may be a time where we have to learn to make concessions for other people. This might be a time where we're learning to not misinterpret what people say and give people a chance to formulate their thoughts and their words. On the flip side of this, we might feel like we're coming off like we're misunderstood a lot of the time, and we're wanting to find ways to feel more confident in ourselves, and also to try to understand exactly why we might be coming off wrong to others. We'll also have to be mindful of skimming the details when it comes down to written errors or other scenarios involving paperwork and anything to do with understanding the facts of the situation, rather than going off our own opinions or going off our own beliefs or needing to be right for the sake of being right. Then over the weekend, Mercury is going to make transits to Saturn and Pluto, which could lead to demotivation and just uncomfortable interaction. This combination could create moments where doubt is washing over us and we're feeling gloomier than typical, we're feeling more caustic than typical, and so in some ways we might feel somewhat stifled. Also, speaking of stifled, there may be some conversations that come off overbearing, so we may be dealing with people who have overpowering personalities and need to speak over others or say things for shock value in a polarizing way just to get a reaction, and of course to dominate the conversation. So social exchanges may be somewhat rough through this week for that reason. Circling back to the 9th, Jupiter is hitting its retrograde motion and is the last outer planet to finally go retrograde this year. The celestial body has been in its pre-shadow since July 15th, so think about what type of Jupiterian themes were going on in your life. How have you reassessed your approach to knowledge, pursuing opportunities, having more faith in yourself, thinking about travel, seeking a more dynamic lifestyle, your viewpoints, and what current path are you on in your journey towards any kind of self-improvement? One of the ways this can show up is our relationship to optimism. Has this been a time where you're realizing too much toxic positivity is keeping you in unhealthy situations, or that spiritual bypassing has led to some unhealthy patterns regarding your spirituality? Has this been a time where you're realizing too much of a good thing is hindering you, or where there might be a problem with greed? This could be a period to assess those things and understand that shrugging off unhealthy things is just not good for you and it's pretty unconstructive, and also understanding a need to go overboard or overconsume. Sometimes in Jupiterian situations, we might understand why behaving sanctimoniously is shutting other people out. It's a thing where we start realizing that other people's opinions are just as important as our own, and so this could be a time where we might be working on that. We might be working on being overly opinionated on things, or even distancing ourselves from others who actually act that way. Sometimes a recalibration of this nature is due to shifting viewpoints. Maybe your perspective on life has shifted. Maybe your ideals are shifting. Maybe you're opening up to new philosophies and releasing a lot of old ones that are no longer serving you. So sometimes this can get us out of that dogmatic behavior as well. And this could have been a period of assessing whether these old beliefs are a good fit for your life, or are they unconstructive and holding you back in some sort of way. And with Jupiter doesn't like restrictive things, it likes freedom. So this could be a time of really freeing yourself from those types of old baggage and thoughts and stifling perspectives that are restricting you. This might be a time where you're regaining trust back in yourself and you're developing your confidence after losing a lot of hope. Sometimes in Jupiter retrogrades, if we lost a lot of our enthusiasm. On the flip side of toxic positivity, sometimes a Jupiter retrograde will put us in a position where we look at where we've lost our hope and our positivity and why we need to get back to our upbeat selves, why we need to get back to our confident selves. So this could be a moment where you're starting to realize that you need to bet on yourself and get get back your jovial spirit. For some people, Jupiter retrogrades are times where they're looking at their spirituality. Maybe this is a time of a spiritual awakening in some people. This may be a time of getting back to your spirituality if you've lost sight of that for whatever reason. So this could awaken or reawaken some sort of metaphysical journey that you need to go on. Another type of journey that we can be going on is revising our vision for ourselves. Maybe we were on one path and now we're realizing that that path's not working for us, and so it's time to create something else. With Jupiter being in Gemini, maybe it might be that we're just not in the right environment. And so this might be a time of revising things so that way you're finding the right local environment for yourself, even if that happens to be in a faraway place. Maybe that vision we have for ourselves had to do with education with Jupiter. And so this might be a time of going back to school for maybe a different degree or embarking on your journey for higher education. With it being in Gemini, this might be a time of taking courses that lead to some sort of certification. And sometimes this could be just simply taking more risk and getting on that kind of journey, healthy risk. With Jupiter energy, it's all about putting ourselves out there and shooting our shot at the possibilities that may turn into some fortunate moments. So this might be a time where you're embarking on a journey that allows you to take more chances and bet on yourself more. But overall, Jupiter retrogrades are great for finding our own truth and going on that sort of quest that aligns with who we are in our spirit and our belief systems. That way we can take advantage of opportunities that have our name on them. The signs that'll feel this retrograde more than others will be the mutable modality: Gemini, Virgo, Sagittarius, and Pisces, between 10 to 22 degrees of these zodiac placements. So if you have planets and chart points in these signs, you'll feel this more significantly than others. Jupiter goes direct on February 4th of 2025 and will leave its post shadow on April 30th of 2025. Over these next couple of days, we have more Jupiterian contacts, with a Yod situation to Venus and Jupiter making a sextile to Chiron. So both planets are putting pressure on Venus at this time, on top of Jupiter making its uncommon sextile with Chiron. Jupiter last made the sextile in 2021, so it's not one of those alignments that we get quite often, and so having this on top of the Yod can make for a very interesting situation. Concerning the Yodid portion of this energy, it might enunciate the urge to get on the right path concerning unconstructive behavior. And so this may show us where we lack self-awareness regarding Venusian things, especially when it comes down to our relationships, our love life, our finances, our relationship to pleasure, our relationship to overindulging, and other forms of self-sabotage concerning Venusian things. But luckily, we've got that Jupiter sextile Chiron situation involved in this, which we'll be feeling for weeks. So that Venus thing will be a passing thing, and this may help us in terms of getting on the proper healing journey when it comes down to those things with Venusian things. So even if we're feeling a sense of disappointment in those areas of life, we may find ourselves picking ourselves back up and feeling encouraged to break those patterns. Because Jupiter sextile Chiron promotes exploring ways to get back on track with our personal growth goals, finally understanding patterns and habits that hold us back from progress, and making our well-being a priority for a change, and also recovering from situations that kept us stuck for a while. So this could really help us get out of our own way, especially because with an alignment like this, we feel encouraged to seek knowledge that just aids us in mending emotional baggage, learning how to regain our sense of hope and confidence back in ourselves, and just taking a more optimistic approach to life. Kind of like what I was saying with the Jupiter retrograde thing, sometimes it's not toxic positivity. Sometimes we've just lost our faith and our confidence, and we've become more caustic than typical, gloomier in our thoughts and our perspectives, and this may be a time to get back on track and find your sense of jovialness again. Also, with energy like this, if we've recovered from these things ourselves, this might be a time where we're taking a leap in terms of helping others. So it might be a phase of looking into becoming a mentor or a coach or a psychologist or the healing arts, and teaching others what you learned so they can get unstuck and heal themselves. On that same day as Jupiter and Chiron are making that exact sextile, Pluto is leaving its retrograde. So not only do we have a stationary Pluto that's gone direct, but it's the last stationary Pluto in Capricorn. So this retrograde is extra potent and extra special because it's at the 29th degree of Capricorn, and we're no longer going to see this alignment anymore. And by alignment, this pairing of Pluto and Capricorn. This has been around for the last 16 years. And we are wrapping up that phase of these types of themes that Pluto and Capricorn brought us. Since August 26, Pluto went back into Capricorn, and it was a period to identify ways that we can improve old structures, outdated laws, outdated systems that no longer have a place in this this world. So that retrograde portion in Capricorn was a time to review things that are just no longer beneficial individually or societally. On a personal level, this might have been a time where we were digging deep so that we could resolve issues that we've ignored since Pluto's been in Capricorn and to find solutions to problems maybe we overlooked. So anything we might have suppressed in terms of our feelings, any type of self-control issues, compulsions, letting go of harmful habits, this could have been things that have been addressed since this went in retrograde through the Capricornian lens. Collectively, this could have been a time of finishing old business and pouring the final cement on a foundation that needs to be laid in order to move forward as a society, which means letting go of things that no longer serve us. And because of that, sometimes this can manifest through trying to resolve issues with outdated laws, anything to do with authority, anything that might be power struggly or dealing with power hungry people who abuse their power, and any other situation that just lacks integrity. So over this next month, this last and final time that Pluto's in Capricorn, we'll revisit a lot of these themes with more clarity. Pluto's going to move forward in Aquarius on November 19th, which will also cover the rest of the retrograde and Aquarian themes. But this happens to be a very significant period since Pluto won't be back in Capricorn for another couple of centuries. And so unless we're vampires, there's no way we're seeing Pluto in Capricorn at the 29th degree in its retrograde cycle. So this is a time to pay close attention to any Pluto and Capricorn themes that might arise during this last period of it. And once we're done with the Pluto and Capricorn saga, it'll remain in Aquarius until May 8th of 2043. Once we get to the 13th, we've got two pre-shadow retrograde alignments, and it's also going to make a semi-sextile with Jupiter. So energy like this could lead to a lot of vacillating, and by vacillating, especially with the Chiron situation, we may have to address issues with anger, but we also might have to address issues with asserting ourselves. So anything to do with having an off-kiltered temperament needs to be addressed when this energy comes up. It might be a time of self-empowerment. It may be a time to set boundaries with people. It may be a time to advocate for yourself and to build the courage to be direct with others. On the flip side, this might be a time to check anger and why we react aggressively or feel the need to throw our weight around and act dominant and confrontational in any kind of way. And to add to this situation, Mars is in that semi-sextile with Jupiter, and so this can exacerbate that kind of energy. We definitely need to be mindful of our tempers, but we also need to be mindful of carelessness with energy like this. The Mars-Jupiter semi-sextile can bring about some fun energy, and that's why we were seeing some of that on the graph along with the Jupiter-Chiron situation, which hopefully mitigates some of this. But this could increase impulsivity and the need for thrill-seeking behavior and pushing our luck. And sometimes, again, that can be fun as long as we're being mindful of it and trying to rein ourselves in. But under this influence, we could go off the rails a bit, leading to reckless behavior, poor judgment, blowing things out of proportion, and acting out because of that. And as I always say, when it comes to Mars and Jupiter in a hard alignment, Mars and Jupiter in a hard alignment is bar fight energy. Because Mars and Jupiter encourage each other to keep going and going. I mean, if you've ever seen an Aries and a Sag together acting recklessly, they tend to fan each other's flames, leading to a lot of unconstructive shit. And I could say this as an Aries who has good friends that are Sagittarians. We've done some dumb things when we were young, like staying out really late and drinking knowing we had school and exams and things like that. So have fun with this energy. Try your best not to be reckless, and definitely if you're seeing somebody who's throwing their weight around, if possible, if you have the luxury to, try to avoid them. So yeah, another crazy week. October is definitely a revved up month, and September was too, but this month definitely has this intensity about it. So let's try to roll with these energies in the most constructive way possible. Anyway, I hope you all have the best week ever. Later, and see you in the next episode.